It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. Rolling with you on a competition Wednesday here on the Team 980. And unfortunately, it is a competition Wednesday that starts off with not great news emanating from Arizona. The vibes have been nothing but fantastic for the Commanders since the Monday night win, with Jayden Daniels putting on that legendary performance in his third ever career start. You got the great vibes. You're breaking down the tape. We got a tape Tuesday, even though it's Wednesday, coming later on in the show with Logan and the whole deal. And then Dan Quinn steps to the podium, and before we can even get our hopes up about the weekend, DQ announces that Austin Ekeler is going to miss this weekend's game with a concussion. Now, that does not mean the party is over. The Commanders closed out that game without him on Sunday. But it is hard to overstate how important Austin Ekeler has been so far this year, to the point that he's almost been taken for granted. I do think people, when they stop for 5 seconds, go, wait, also Austin Ekeler's been great. But the NFL in 2024 is about explosive plays. It is about how do you generate big chunks of yardage to make your lift not as heavy, right? The Commanders have done an unbelievable job, mostly without explosive plays, of getting down in scoring and getting in scoring position. They haven't punted in 2 weeks, literally. They obviously haven't turned the football over, which is another thing that happens when you don't get explosive plays, because you have to run too many plays that eventually you're going to run into a turnover. They've also gotten lucky, right? They had two fumbles this year that were recovered by offensive linemen. The Jayden Daniels sack fumble in week 1 and the Zach Ertz fumble that Nick Allegretti recovered in week 3. And the less you have to run those types of plays because you generate explosives, the more that you can count on not having turnovers, not getting a bad down in distances, and ultimately, as we saw Terry McLaurin on the 27-yarder to close out the game, if you just score, then you don't have to worry about executing in the red zone. That was the problem against the Giants. There was basically no explosive plays, and even though they were able to drive time and time again on the Giants' defense, you saw how hard it is to score in the red zone. They were able to obviously have the big explosive to Terry down the field and then score in the red zone. They had the big explosive to Terry late to score, and then the other guy who had the explosive to score was Austin Ekeler. That 20-plus, I think it was a 24-yard run to the house. Ekeler also has a kickoff return, and he could have had a kickoff return against the Giants if they don't call that penalty on Nick Bellore, and Bellore certainly did not need to hold on that play for Ekeler to get loose. He had another big one against Cincinnati to get a short field. They score on that drive because they scored on every drive against Cincinnati. And that is, if you start to think about it, like, okay, well, where have they gotten some of the big plays? Obviously, Jayden, a couple in the Bengals game that we've been talking about ad nauseum. But other than that, it's a lot of Austin Ekeler. And I just pulled up on NFL Pro. I did a quick search. There are 13 10-plus yard rush plays for the offense this year. I have not done the math yet. I just did the sort, so we're going to do this live. Against Tampa, Jayden Daniels scrambles for 17. Jayden Daniels scrambles for 16. Jayden Daniels scrambles for 12. Daniels scrambles for 11. So of the 4 10-plus yard runs in the Tampa game, all of them were Jayden Daniels. In the Giants game, Ekeler for 13. There's one. B-Rob for 10. That's 2. Daniels, B-Rob, 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 and then B-Rob, and then Daniels. And then in the Cincinnati game, the only big run that they had, and we know that that Robinson was obviously awesome in that Giants game, but the only big run that they had is the Ekeler 24-yard touchdown. It's the only explosive play they have on the ground. None of Daniel scrambles, none of the Robinson runs. It was Ekeler. And then I don't have the ability to, I don't think, sort passes in terms of outcome, receiving outcome, receptions. Do I have the ability to do that? I don't know. I haven't played with this enough to be able to do this in the time and speed that you do when you're reacting, or you want to when you are reacting to breaking news. But here, I can do it this way. Intended receiver, Austin Ekeler. Let's see how that's gone. He's been targeted on 9 plays. These are results of those 9 plays. 22 yards, 11 yards, 12 yards, 7 yards, 4 yards, 16 yards, This one, God, there's a lot of words there. 27 yards. And then in the Cincinnati game, he had 1 for 8 and 1 for 14. You want to talk about generating chunk yardage. Austin Ekeler's the guy that has done it this year. He is a walking explosive play. And while that actually doesn't even begin to tell the full story of Austin Ekeler because of how good he is as a pass blocker, the formational versatility that he has that's been key to what this offense wants to do, it does tell you the biggest part about why Austin Ekeler is such a invaluable piece to this team. And why, while I think Jeremy McNichols will do a good job at a lot of things that Austin Ekeler has done, primarily as a pass blocker, we saw that on the touchdown to Terry, where if you haven't seen the all-22 angle by now, McNichols, despite the fact that Jayden takes a shot on that, it's a shot from a defensive back that's an unblocked, unaccounted for man in the protection. That's on Jayden to get the ball out before he gets there. The reason that he's got time to do that is because on the inside of that play, Jeremy McNichols picks up a blitzing linebacker, Jermaine Pratt, and literally picks him up off the ground, up to his shoulder pads, and then slams him down to the ground. So Jeremy McNichols in pass protection, he's good. Very, very good. He's a decent back out of the backfield. He can run tough, but he's not as shifty and not as explosive as Austin Ekeler. And in a league that is predicated and necessitates big explosive plays to score touchdowns, you are now on Sunday, sadly, without your number one weapon in that department. And will they lean on Brian Robinson more? Probably. Will they maybe get creative with some stuff out of the backfield? Sure. Could they call up Kaz Allen from the practice squad and try to get an explosive out of him? They could. Seems risky. Have it turn the football over. He seems to turn the football over many, many times that he touches it in the preseason touches that he's gotten. Michael Wiley seems like the most likely guy to get called up if they want to go extra running back. But who knows? Who knows what they do? And also, obviously, you could get guys like Olamide Zaccheaus some extra touches in the screen game. Like there's things you can do. Zaccheaus took over in the kick return game. So there are playmakers on this team, but none of them do what Austin Ekeler could do. Next man up sounds nice, but there's no replacing a guy that is the most dynamic ball carrier on your team, not named Jayden Daniels, not named Terry McLaurin. And so far in 2024, as unbelievable as it is based off what he did last year, it is Austin Ekeler. And it just goes to show you that maybe a guy who was battling an ankle injury and relies on really sharp angles to cut on to be explosive because he can move and weave in ways that most guys can't. And that, well, as nerdy as this is, ankle mobility might be important in that. If he's a little stiff, he can't quite dip the way he wants to dip. And so a fully healthy Austin Ekeler, huge weapon. Hopefully, for his sake, he gets back soon. And obviously for the team's sake, but first and foremost, it's a brain injury, so wishing Austin the best. And that's the uphill climb that now Cliff Kingsbury has a short week to prepare for. How do we generate explosives without the number one guy who has been our explosive player so far this year? Also announced today from Dan Quinn, Clelin Ferrell is out as well. So they will continue to try to, rotate through on the defensive end and see if they can get a little more pass rush juice, see if they can be a little more solid in the run game, where Ferrell is obviously excellent in week 2, not against a Cincinnati Joe Burrow-led offense, but a still dangerous Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. led offense. All right, when we get back, also today on the show, we will get to more of what Dan Quinn said when he addressed the media out in Arizona. The team is out there already. They are preparing on the West Coast with a short week. Instead of coming back, traveling on Friday, they just figured, let's go practice. So they're back at Jayden's old stomping grounds at Arizona State. Dan Quinn spoke just a little bit ago, so we'll get you a little bit more of what he and Jayden, who will speak a little bit later, has to say. Plus, up next, DVOA. You've probably heard of it. It's an advanced stat that tries to measure how a unit or a player is performing compared to league average. Just how bad have the Commanders been so far through 3 games? You're not going to believe the number that we'll give you next, and we'll try to put it in some context as well. Then at 4:30, actually, Anthony, I don't even remember. Our show rundown is so... We jumbled it right before the snap, if you will. We called it an Omaha, an audible right before we got on the air. What are we doing at 4:30 now? Are we doing our NFL tiers at 4:30 now?
Yes, sir. We're doing tiers at 4:30.
Okay, so our NFL tiers, which normally we do on Tuesdays, we're gonna do next, or sorry, at 4:30 because we didn't have time Tuesday because Tuesday was kind of like Monday. So we're getting caught up. We're getting you everything you need in your football week right here on the Hoffman Show. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980. Anthony, you like how I waited till the beat drop there? It's professional radioing.
Well, smooth, man. Smooth.
Normally I don't point that stuff out, but sometimes y'all just gotta recognize that I know what I'm doing over here. There's a smoothness to the program that becomes very apparent when we mess up because it becomes very not smooth very quickly. But sometimes, we're just letting y'all know that we are paying attention. Anyway, the point is, Anthony, that you sent me something that is not so smooth when it comes to the Commanders' defense. And I will let you, since you found this stat, you found this tweet. I will let you read it to the people.
All right, gotcha, man. So everybody's been talking about, how bad our, defense has been. And it compares historically to some of the worst defenses through 3 games when you look at DVOA. So right now, and this tracks all the way back to 1979.
Whew.
Since 1979, we are 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 5th worst DVOA through 3 games by an NFL defense. That's where we rank right now.
That seems absurd. There's no, you're telling me they're worse than every other team. Some of these teams have given up, I guess they've given up 30 twice. That's crazy. But also, you think of what they gave up to the Giants. If you're talking about yardage, what they gave up to Cincinnati in yardage was somehow worse than the total. So looking at what DVOA is as a stat, I guess that makes sense. This actually comes from a guy named Aaron Schatz, who we've actually had on the show. He's kind of the godfather of DVOA. Here is how he starts his article on this week's defensive DVOA, and this is on the FTN Fantasy Network. Last week, my hook for the DVOA commentary was that the Saints and Panthers were among the historically best and worst teams through 2 games. There's no such hook this week. In fact, what's most interesting about this year so far may be the lack of extremes, especially when you look at this year's best and worst teams compared to the now 45-year history of DVOA. There's one exception, and that's the Washington Commanders defense. Remember how bad the Broncos defense last year was? Historically bad. We remember because the Commanders obviously beat the Broncos. That's me putting in commentary to Aaron's writing here. But yeah, remember that Broncos team that was literally the worst defense the first half of the season? The Broncos were defeated. I don't think they won a game until week 7 or something like that. It felt like, or they were 1 in whatever. They were awful, and the Commanders beat them pretty good. In that second half with Sam Howell. So he says the Washington Commanders have been almost as bad when we adjust for the fact that scoring is down around the league this year. The Commanders are just 26th in total DVOA. So you combine offense, defense, 26th in total DVOA, despite being 2-1. And a big reason is the horrible defense. Washington has a top 10 offense, but their defense is way, way, way behind everyone else. Here's a list of the worst defenses ever through 3 games. Remember that the defense is worse when it is higher because that means more scoring. So the DVOA percentage, they have it at 37.5. And that is the only teams worse are hilariously the 2049ers, the 2013 Washington team, 1990 Seahawks, and 1979 Cincinnati. Those are the teams that are it. It says most of these teams didn't actually finish out too bad. The 2008 Lions were winless. The 2002 Chiefs, a couple others, all won at least 7 games. So obviously Washington Washington is really struggling defensively, but I do think it's worth some context. And this is where okay, just tell us that it sucks. We can see it. Don't try to sugarcoat this, Hoffman. I get it. But that's a boring radio show. That is a boring, not very insightful. Yeah, they're not very good. Here's the context I'll give you on the numbers / on the defense. After watching it back, there are, if you squint your eyes, some signs of hope. The rush is a little more cohesive. The coverage is better. The Cincinnati Bengals just absolutely hammered the very few opportunities that Joe Witt Jr. gave them. And that's a huge thing. You have 2 plays in this game of maybe what felt like 5. They couldn't have played more than 10 snaps in this game of single high safety coverage or / man-to-man or, cover 3, cover 1, whatever version where you wind up with singled up coverage on the outside. I don't know if they played more than 5 snaps of it. They certainly didn't play more than 10, and they had 2 long touchdowns on it to Jamar Chase. one of which, Benjamin St-Juste, like the ultimate BSJ, he doesn't play it that badly. He squeezes Chase to the sideline. Like, I expected to watch that back and be like, damn, Benjamin, like that was pretty bad. And no, he squeezes him to the sideline. He's kind of right there. He needs to make a play on the ball, but Chase hits him with these late hands. So, like, if BSJ has had to turn and chase Jamar because Jamar's so good at getting on top of guys and stacking them and doing the receiver stuff, that BSJ is now like, okay, I have to play through his hands and watch in case the ball comes. And Chase, at the very last second, goes, "Whoop, there are my hands." Breadbasket, catches it. It's impossible. Like, Jamar Chase, full Jamar Chase on that one. And obviously on Sanders still, he routes him up pretty good, but like that's a pretty bad job by Mikey. But still, there's 14 points based off of, or 2 touchdowns based off of 2 plays, killing them for the mistakes. You could also say, hey, well, they missed a field goal. It could have been worse. But down in, down out, they're giving up these chunks, and that's why the DVOA number is so bad. It's because on average, let's say a second down run from the minus 39 goes for 4, and they're giving up 7 or 8 on it. And that's how you calculate DVOA. And if you're looking at yardage numbers, Anthony, it is pretty hideous. Even if they're bending but not breaking as much in the red zone, at least enough to be 2-1.
Yeah. The fact that we're this historically bad, I mean, again, I think it screams at the need and desire to, want more out of the guys that we're paying big money to. And I understand they are being doubled and things of that nature, but to me, it doesn't make sense that Johnny Newton played on less than 40% of the snaps that John Allen, Daron Payne played on, and he still managed to have 3 more tackles than both of them combined. Like that screams effort. That screams, we need more out of these two. So, I mean, yes, we're here right now, but again, those other teams that finish with 7 wins, 8 wins, it's not too late to, right those wrong turn things around. And we're in a better position than those teams because we won 2 games despite being this bad.
100%. And the other part of this, like you're right? You need more production from your stars. Like I think those guys maybe played a little better than it felt on watching TV, but like they didn't play awesome. That's for sure. Like they didn't secretly make plays. Like the tackles are the tackles, the sacks are the sacks. Duran had some good rushes, especially as the game went on. But again, he's got to finish. Like we know that he had opportunities he didn't finish. That's kind of the point. Is like, hey man, you got to finish those. That's why you're Daron Payne. But I think the other context in terms of the full team is if they're dead last in DVOA by that much, that tells you play per play, they are giving up more yards than anybody else by a lot. Yet they're only 4th worst, which I realize is not good, but 4th worst in total yards given up this year.
Oh, wow.
Right? So what does that mean? How do you get that? They're facing less plays. Yes, on a couple drives, they have given up quick touchdowns, but mostly it's because their offense is keeping the defense on the sideline. They're playing the time of possession game. And like, if there is not an argument to be made there for complementary football and understanding where your weaknesses are and how you have to use your offense to help your defense, I don't know what to tell you. Like, yes, this defense is real bad. The good news is, as a team, they are covering for that. The bad news is that is a lot of pressure on a rookie quarterback and an offense to continue operating at an absurdly high level where they are scoring on literally every drive. They haven't punted in 2 weeks and they haven't turned the football over all year. It shows you both the power of complementary football, the power of holding on to time of possession, the power of limiting the other team's plays, the effectiveness of red zone defense. And if you can give up yards but not give up points, then you can be the 4th worst in yards and only the... let's see, where are we? 1, 2. Well, they are the 4th worst in points, so it's just a different order of the teams. But at the end of the day, like, it tells you both those things, the context, but it also tells you how thin the ice is. That if one of those other factors goes haywire and this defense keeps playing like this, they're going to give up, 40 instead of 30, and they've already given up 30 twice. So I do think that, like, again, when I say provide context, not all the context is like, oh, actually, everything is fine. It's just like, here's a number, here's what it means, and this is how it ultimately fits into the entire puzzle of their season so far. And the words "so far" are really important because, like, Aaron said in his article, and like you pointed out, plenty of other teams have started really bad and turned it around, and they are a couple pass rushes hitting, a ball getting tipped and an interception, whatever, away from having these numbers look completely different. Small sample sizes, 3 games.
3 games, man.
Out of left field, question for you. If you were to talk about DVOA to Zaire, an actual NFL defensive player, how hard would he reject that number? Would he be like, I don't care, take your numbers and shove them? Or is he a guy that like is interested in the data? And
nah, he doesn't care for the numbers. He definitely, I know he doesn't care for the numbers because I think PFF, he doesn't even know what that metric is like based on, like how they get the grades that they get. So he doesn't really pay attention to a lot of the numbers, and I think a lot of those guys don't.
Yeah, no, I don't think they have. DVOA is not like it's a calculation. It's based off of numbers as opposed to like a guy watching tape. And the PFF does as well as anybody. The problem is there's extreme limitations in that. So I understand why guys get upset at PFF. So there's that. Sorry, PFF, didn't mean to take a shot at you at the end. I like your data. It's very valuable. Okay, when we get back, our NFL tiers. Can the Commanders hop out of interesting but not quite good enough? Are we going to give the Commanders a puncher's chance? That's next on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And on Tuesdays, typically, we give you our NFL tier rankings. It's our version of power rankings because we just think that, they're a little bit silly when it comes to, hey, is Team 1 better than Team 2? Well, what about Team 4? And we just think teams are better grouped in the neighborhood that they live in. So instead of trying to rank them 1 through 32, we create little neighborhoods. And the first one is prime contenders. The second one is puncher's chance. The third one is interesting, but not quite good enough. And the last one we affectionately call no chance. They have no chance in hell of being good. There's just one team in that bottom column right now. We might have to even move them out. We might have an empty basement, Anthony. But we'll get to the basement. We always start at the top. We start in the penthouse, if you will, with our prime contenders, which, oh, buddy, we got some stuff to talk about here. Let's hit the music. Let's get going. Kansas City Chiefs. They just won again. They're 3-0. Check?
Check.
All right. The Baltimore Ravens, we said that they and the Dallas Cowboys were going to face off, and the winner got to stay, and the loser had to go. The Ravens won. They still are making us, I think, a little bit nervous closing out games, but ultimately they did it. They won. I think they will continue to get better and grow. So I think they stay up, and I don't think that the Cowboys, even though they had a nice little fourth quarter comeback, and I'm tempted to go against what we said, I think they have to, by definition, drop.
Nah, I think Dallas should be down. Again, Lamar wanted to keep, his foot on the gas against the Cowboys just because he knew how dangerous of a threat they could be, and how fast they can score. But, the offense took more of a conservative approach. So I'm hoping that, they actually listen to Lamar and actually, just continue to put points on the board because, again, Dallas wasn't stopping their offense. Why go away from what's working? So I'm not too concerned about the Ravens. Again, I think slow start to the season, and they're going to find their groove. They beat a very good team in the Dallas Cowboys, and had Dallas not recovered that onside kick, it wouldn't have been close.
That's also a good point, that it is closer in the end because of one of the, if not the single flukiest play in football. The other teams that I think are easy to keep up. Detroit obviously had a nice win. Buffalo, we had moved up last week. They look like maybe the best team in football so far. If we were to do a power rankings, I think that they might be number one with how they've played so far. And Josh Allen is currently the front runner for MVP. I feel like there's a certain Bills fan who shall remain nameless that I think we should have call in the show and just punk you, Anthony. I might have to send a text on that.
We shall see how the season goes and how the playoffs go as well.
I know. You have the playoffs trump card until the end, even though he's actually played well in a bunch of playoff games that Patrick Mahomes is just better at, / his kicker miss / whatever. Anyway, the point is the Bills, they up. The team that there's then two teams that I don't know what to do with that are up now, and I want to move one down and keep one up, but I'm betting it's the opposite of what you think. The two teams are the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Niners are 1-2. They lost. I still think they're going to figure it out. And the reason is because, while Josh Allen is probably the favorite for MVP right now, if they can figure it out, Brock Purdy's got a hell of a chance. That dude is playing unbelievable football. And if they have a couple of guys catch passes, they beat the Rams. It's Matt Stafford never has the chance at the end, and they should have won that game. And realistically, once they get Debo and Kittle back, I think they're fine. And if they get McCaffrey back, then they launch back into the stratosphere. So I know that we have to grade the teams as they are. And some of this is like a mix between what you're doing now and a projection. And for that reason, I think we probably should move the Niners down, but I don't want to, if that makes sense. I think the analysis is they'll be fine, but the more I talk it out loud and try to be honest to where we are at this point in the season, I guess we kind of have to move them down for now, even if my worry level for them is much more tied to Christian McCaffrey's calf and these injuries than it is their actual level of performance.
Yeah, I think it's safe to move them down as well. Again, you got to finish the game. You got to win the game. And they didn't do that against the Rams. Granted, It came down to Bell, catching a singular pass. But there were other plays in the game. The defense hasn't been playing particularly well.
That's the more worrying side. Like, that's the crazy thing. As banged up as their offense is, it's their defense that has me more worried.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have a new DC, and I think they'll figure it out as they get into the season. So, I don't know. All right. The other team is the Eagles. I just don't think they're that good, bro.
I mean, the fact that, Derek Carr and the Saints put up 91 points in their first 2 games, Craig. 91 points in their
first 2 games. It's not their defense.
Their defense played good, though.
I know. But their offense is not good. Especially without AJ Brown.
I think A.J. Brown being hurt, also Devontae Smith being hurt.
Of course.
That hurts a lot.
Of course it hurts a lot.
That's the same thing that's going on with the 49ers.
Right, which we just moved down for the same reason.
Yeah, but guess what? The difference is they won the game. They found a way to win the game. They leaned on Saquon. You paid Saquon. You bring him in. He hits that.
They are, to me, the definition of a puncher's chance. They are super talented. They are not cohesive. They don't have an identity. They don't know. Sirianni's a mess. He stinks with in-game decision-making. Look, I've been saying it all summer, so maybe it's confirmation bias, but I don't watch that team, and I'm not scared. I'm not impressed. I'm not anything. If you tell me what neighborhood do they belong in, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Lions, that crew, or the motley crew that we're about to start naming here, that's a thick group of puncher's chance teams, I'm telling you they belong with those other group of teams. They are not prime.
If they had A.J. Brown, if they had Devontae, if they were fully healthy,
I'd still be
there. Just because their defense
worried.
is playing solid, though. The defense is playing solid. It's the
solid,
offense.
But also, are the Saints really that good? I know what they were the first 2 weeks, but small sample sizes.
We have them in puncher's chance. I'm just saying.
I'm making an executive decision here. Okay. I'm tired of having the Eagles in prime contenders. They don't belong. The four teams that scare me the most in the NFL right now are probably the Chiefs, Ravens, Lions, and Bills.
And we have the Lions up there, even though they lost to who they lose.
Lost to Tampa.
A banged up Tampa.
Yeah, they did. It happens. But they're still good. Who would you pick tomorrow, Lions or Eagles?
It's a great question, correct?
I picked the Lions. I wouldn't think twice about it.
And I'll probably pick the Eagles.
Okay, well, I'm better at picking games than you, so...
Yes, you are.
So we're going to put the Lions in prime contenders, and we're going to put the Eagles down.
All right.
Then we get to the next group of teams, our puncher's chance teams. Are there any of these teams that we need to move up? That becomes the question. And again, as we get deeper into the season, we kind of stop doing projecting and more of how they're playing right now. Mm-hmm. So with that, is there any team on this list that you like? There's definitely some teams that are going to move down, but I think there's one team that we need to talk about coming up into prime contenders based off what they've been so far. And
I think there's another team.
You think there's two? I'm going to go Seattle Seahawks, and I'm going to go ahead and put them up. That team is talented. They're physical. They're tough. I don't think this is. Do I genuinely think they're going to make the Super Bowl or are really a huge threat? I can't go that far, but there aren't a lot of teams that I pick over Seattle right now. So there might be some teams that round into form, might be some teams that get back healthy, but they're explosive. They're nasty on defense. They play with attitude. Seahawks, they're 3-0 for a reason. They go up for me. Who's the team that you think should go up?
I like the Vikings. And maybe we got to give it one more week, but that defense that Brian Flores is leading out there, they've stifled some high-powered offenses. You talk about the Texans. You talk about the 49ers.
And they've smashed them.
Exactly. So I think they're worth considering. Maybe not this week, but I definitely think it's something to monitor just because Sam Darnold's also playing well. He understands the assignment. Get Justin Jefferson the ball. And they're without Addison right now. So the fact that they're going out there, leaning on the defense and putting up points, I think they're an interesting team. Maybe not this week, but next week.
If I didn't like them, I'm admitting enormous bias here. If I didn't like them and the way they play and it didn't speak to me and I didn't, personally like their head coach because I got to know him when he was here, and Kevin and I don't have any kind of relationship now. I'm sure if we saw each other at the combine or whatever, we'd say hello, we'd be friendly. It's not like he forgot who I was. I know that because I said hello in passing at the combine, right? But it's not like we talk all the time. But I think that I got to know him professionally. I think he's really smart. I think he gets the game. Because of that, and because of what they're doing defensively, and because they're 3-0, and because they're smashing teams, I'm going to put them up for this week. I think if I was being super harsh here, I'd probably be like, yeah, they don't belong up. But, like, what more could they have done so far this year to get up into the top tier than what they've done? And that's kind of the argument, I think, for putting them up for right now. And, again, as we get deeper into the season, we start to balance our own projections of what we think they can be. And as we have more data, we have to look at what they realistically have been. And I think realistically, based off what they have been, they've been one of the best, 5-6 teams in football this year. So they go up.
If we're going to move them up, should there be another team that we consider moving up? In the Green Bay Packers.
Ooh.
And look, and that's why I wasn't so eager to, put the Vikings up just, quite yet, just because it's early kind of thing. Still filling the season out. Green Bay, they're dealing with injuries at the quarterback position. But the fact that they're still putting up points, Matt LaFleur is over there cooking,
honestly,
Greg.
if you told me, I'm putting them up. I love that call.
Okay.
Because if you told me that one of those two teams wound up in the NFC title game, I would tell you it's Green Bay. Obviously, that's with Love coming back and playing great ball, but I think LaFleur's that good. He's unbelievable as a coach. Like, their ability to figure it out with no-name weapons, Malik Willis at quarterback, like, they let Aaron Jones go, who looks great in Minnesota, by the way.
Yep.
Josh Jacobs, no slouch, but shoosh. All right, so that reorganizes our top two tiers in terms of the up. Take a quick break, come back, and then we'll look at a couple of teams, unquestionably, that are going down. And is there anybody that can escape the third tier, interesting but not quite good enough, into our puncher's chance, including your Washington Commanders at 2-1. We'll talk about it next on the Team 980. Continuing with our NFL tier rankings here on the Hoffman Show, before we get to a Take Command Tape Tuesday on a Wednesday on the Team 980 because of Monday Night Football. Logan Paulson breaking down Jayden Daniels' historic day. Just where does it rank in terms of all of the quarterback games that he has ever seen as a player and as an analyst? We will get there at 5 o'clock. But we pick things up with our tier rankings. And Anthony, the teams in the puncher's chance category that need to take a trip down. So we have currently the Eagles, Niners, and Cowboys that just came down. I think the Texans are fine. They're not being super impressive, but they're fine. The Miami Dolphins are a disaster. Currently, with their quarterback situation, they probably belong in no chance, but I have too much respect for Mike McDaniel to do that. So we're just going to tack on the Miami Dolphins to the bottom of interesting but not good enough and see what they do at the quarterback position. Sound good to you?
Sounds great.
All right, Tampa, they can stay for now. They had a bad week. The Chicago Bears, goodbye. I said this as we picked games last week, that for right now, I need the Chicago Bears, or I need to readjust my own feelings on the Bears to be what they are, what the Bears are, not what I think they could be. Because they're not doing any of the things that would make them what I think they could be. They are doing a terrible job with the rookie quarterback. I do not know what they're doing, and the results are hideous. DeAndre Swift is a mess for them in the running game. They need to do something else at the running back position. And they're interesting because they have Caleb Williams, but they're not good enough to be a contender.
Yeah, the Bears, I think they just put too much on the kid Caleb Williams' plate, and they shouldn't be doing that. They should lean a little bit more on Swift, the run game, and it's just bad process over there.
They should not lean on DeAndre Swift. He's a bad running back.
Well, Khalil Herbert or Roshan Johnson, who runs really hard. He runs really hard.
Dude, like, there's some of the clips of Swift going around where he just, like, passes up easy gaps and just runs into his own guys. Or there's one where he, like, cuts back too many times and then launches himself. He could just dive forward for 3 yards. And instead of diving forward for 3 yards, he launches himself sideways into a defensive player.
Yeah, all that dancing, man.
Silly. So, yeah, not great. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, are fine where they are. I think the Falcons are fine where they are. Like, they played competitive against the Chiefs. The Steelers, I still just don't think have the top-end talent. I know their defense is nasty. The best defense is football. Like, I don't think they belong in prime contenders, though. Like, I'm sorry.
They're holding people under 10. This is what the Ravens were doing last year. The Ravens were doing this exact same thing defensively.
I do it for more than 3 games against some of the opponents they've played. That's all I'm saying.
So in 5 games.
They do it for, they've allowed less than 50 points through 5 games. Yeah, they're going in prime contenders.
Hey, look, say no more, Craig. Hey, look, got me.
Hey, look, also, Mike Tomlin, you have to name a starting quarterback for the rest of the season before I can put you as one of the best teams in football. All due respect. New York Jets, I think they're fine in puncher's chance. They're starting to figure some things out. And the Saints, last week was ugly. They earned, by how they played in the first 2 weeks, puncher's chance. And if the Eagles are as good as you think they are, then losing to them is not that big of a deal. So I think they're fine.
Yeah, Dennis Allen, he got a little too aggressive. He went for a lot of 4th and 1s. I think he treated it like a game like, we got to score touchdowns instead of taking the field goals. And they could have used the field goals last week, just saying.
For sure. All right, interesting but not quite good enough. One team that I'm going to go ahead and move up, the Los Angeles Chargers are going in puncher's chance. Now, they obviously need Justin Herbert healthy, so this is a bit of a risky maneuver here. I mean, what's the real risk? These are silly power rankings on a radio show. But, like, Jim Harbaugh and his khakis, that dude, he might be able to coach us into a playoff team, Anthony. Let
me say one thing, Craig. So the Chargers possibly will be without Herbert, but they'll also be without their left and right tackle. Rashawn Slater and Joel are both hurt. Not to say, they still can't play smash mouth football, but the fact that you have your 2 best tackles.
All right, fine. We'll make them earn it one more week. Fine. You go. Sorry, Chargers. Sorry, Jim.
Sorry. I'm just saying.
You're going to have to do a few more ice baths in your khakis before you earn your way up. All right, the Rams, despite the win, I still think they're too hurt to go up into puncher's chance for real, but they're 1 win away from us elevating them.
Okay.
In my opinion. And their defense has to continue to play better. They didn't. That's the thing, though. Their defense didn't actually play that great. The Niners had 6 drops, and Brock Purdy should have been 28 of 30 on the day. The Patriots, I think they're fine. Your Colts, they have a chance to get up, but they're going to need more consistent quarterback play. The Bengals obviously can't get up because they didn't win. The Raiders,
making business decisions, huh?
Yeah, they're as close as any team is to going down into no chance.
Yeah.
They're this week's edition of the New York Giants, who get to stay in interesting but not good enough because they pulled out a win.
Do you think if the Giants beat the Cowboys tomorrow? Never mind. I think they're still interesting.
They're definitely not good.
That might just be more of an indictment of the Cowboys.
Yeah, the Broncos, they were on the verge of going down. They got to stay up because they won. The Titans,
they're 0-3 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still they're still interesting though because they have basically a rookie quarterback in Levis.
Yeah.
I'll give it a couple more weeks before I just go, there's no reason to watch you, because that's also the other. Not only is you have no chance, but there's literally no reason to watch your team.
Yeah.
And there's still a reason to watch their team. The Cardinals stay where they're at. I think that's everybody except for the Washington Commanders.
Did we do the Jags?
Oh, the Jags. Yeah. You want to know what? I think we need to move the Jags down, even if it winds up being temporary, because once you're down and no chance, technically we're not supposed to be able to pull you back out. But honest to God, the Jags, after what they put their fans through on Monday night, and as poor as they've been, they deserve to be in the basement.
Yes, they do.
You have to go hang out with the Carolina Panthers, who, by the way, don't deserve you after this week. I kind of want to move the Panthers up because, hey, congratulations. I guess now we get to see. I mean, in some way, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm moving the Carolina Panthers out of no chance. You want to know why? Because I want to see how they play, and maybe that is such an indictment of Bryce Young. Maybe Andy Dalton tells us that this team wasn't as bad as we thought it was, and that Bryce Young actually was a bigger part of the problem, even if he was undoubtedly failed organizationally, but maybe he was also part of the problem.
Yeah.
In a way that we didn't fully appreciate. So I have a reason to watch the Carolina Panthers. The reason to watch the Jacksonville Jaguars, outside of if I like to see people light themselves on fire? No, there is none.
No, I like the Panthers up. Jags can stay where they are at the bottom of the basement, all lonesome.
Yeah, you have to hang out by yourself, and you're in solitary confinement. You think about what you've done.
Yeah.
All right, last but not least, Anthony.
Uh-oh.
The Commanders. They're 2-1.
Woo!
Their offense hasn't punted in 2 weeks. They also have the worst defensive DVOA in football, as discussed earlier in the hour. Do the Washington Commanders get to move out of interesting but not good enough into puncher's chance?
Craig, I think we are interesting, but we're just not quite good enough.
I agree. I'm sorry that we led everybody this far, only to not move them. If they win this weekend, if you're 3-1, you can't be in the bottom 2 tiers. Like
if we get a turnover this weekend, Craig, you got me. We get a turnover. If Forbes comes back, hopefully he plays. Somebody get an interception, a fumble, something.
Yeah, that would be
great.
great.
Got me.
But I think the Washington Commanders are going to stay in interesting but not quite good enough. Defense. Hey, if y'all can get to league average, we will move you into puncher's chance.
Yes.
Jayden Daniels is playing that good right now.
Uh-huh.
That is literally all we're asking for. Commanders defense, league average.
Please.
If we can get to league average, you don't have to do it in yards. Just do it in scoring. Just don't give up 30. And against Arizona, and we'll move you up. That's all we're looking for. So that's the standard that we've set. We'll see how they do next Sunday, and then we'll get back to the tiers on Tuesday. Speaking of Jayden Daniels, oh my God, is this kid playing out of his mind? Just how good was it, though? Logan Paulson holds the keys to all of the football knowledge, and we will give his knowledge to you on a Take Command Tape Tuesday on a Wednesday. Next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, and always live on the free Odyssey app. went in the throwback machine there.
No, what you know about this, Craig?
Man, this is like high school, bro. Or not even high school. This is like middle school, bro. That Madden like 2006 or something like that. Or no, Madden like 2002.
Good Charlotte?
Yeah. Madden 2000 maybe? That was like the song that when you got out of the start menu, which wasn't much back in those days, that song played. That was a jam back in the day. Anyway, it's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Typically 5 o'clock, we give you Not My Beat, which is an inside look at the day's top story. But today, we're obviously in a weird week here with Monday Night Football, so we're kind of condensing some of our days together. And because we didn't have a chance to watch the tape and record Take Command before the show on Tuesday, we figured we would just blend Tuesday and Wednesday together. And today, Logan and I did get together and record our tape review show. It's over an hour of going inside the All-22 coaches tape on the Commanders' win over the Bengals on Monday night. And on the radio on Tuesdays at 5:30, we make sure that we give you the Jayden Daniels breakdown. But without the ability to do that on Tuesday and space to do it here on Wednesday, we present to you on a Wednesday the Take Command Tape Tuesday breakdown of Jayden Daniels' brilliance on Monday Night Football.
With the pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Jayden Daniels.
Jayden Daniels holds the keys to the Commanders' future.
Daniels is going to walk it in for the touchdown.
Take Command holds the keys to knowing how he played.
In the big moment when you needed to make plays, he just consistently made plays.
It's time for a Take Command Tape Tuesday.
Jayden Daniels just lays it out there perfectly. What a throw.
On the Hoffman Show.
You could say great. You could say pretty much anything that's positive about the game that Jayden Daniels had, Logan. As I watched it, I try not to be hyperbolic, but like you knew watching it live, it was really good. And then watching the tape, I got to a point where I was nearly in the fourth quarter, and I went, I don't know that he's made not just a bad decision yet. I don't know that he's made a suboptimal decision yet. Every time he scrambled was the right decision. Every throw seemed to go to the right guy. Obviously, there's 2 balls to Terry that he missed. Oh, darn. Those are his only 2 incompletions of the entire game. Is it hyperbolic to say this is one of the best quarterback games that we will ever watch for as long as we cover the NFL?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's been some pretty special performances, and I think back to, the Andrew Lucks and the Tom Bradys and the Peyton Mannings, and those guys were exquisite in maybe a different way, just in terms of ball efficiency and pushing the ball down the field and finding big-time throws and just being those guys, But I do think there was a mastery in this game to just the efficiency of it, And then like the thing that he's been very efficient in his all 3 starts so far, but in the 2 prior to this, it was efficient, but you couldn't find the explosive plays. And so to see him connect with Terry, I think just kind of put the cherry on top. And in terms of the offense, in terms of his performance, and then the big time moments, I think when you look at the performance, you're kind of like, oh, it's pretty good. And then there's that 3rd and 7 conversion to Terry at the end. And it's like, that's one of the best throws you'll see ever. Best throw and catches. Like I was in the booth and, I'm obviously supposed to like talk about the play. And I literally was speechless. All I could do was like laugh for like 30 seconds after they did it. Because I couldn't think of anything to say. It was like one of the most incredible plays, like just between a quarterback and a receiver. And it's not like you'll see people make that catch. You'll see people make that throw. But in the moment with the game on the line, and I think that is to me the thing that really sticks out. It's like, there's a 4th down conversion, obviously, like where you're like, it was so loud in that stadium, like impossibly loud. And they just seemed to be able to get the communication taken care of. And he delivers a strike to Zach Ertz. And you're like, dang, like this dude's like in his bag. The other 4th down, the 4th and short conversion earlier on that drive or the drive prior, where he keeps it and is able to kind of squeak through for a 1st down. Like every one of those plays was big. And it just seemed like every one of them was even more backbreaking than the last. And every one of them was in a pivotal moment. And like there's so many times like as an offensive player where we've talked about possessing the football late in a game versus a better offensive opponent. And I cannot remember a time in my career or covering a team since I've been out of the NFL, like as a player, where I've seen a team do it with that level of efficiency. And I think that's the other thing. It's like in the big moment when you needed to make plays, he just consistently made plays. And you're just like, they can't do it again. Like they've made too many plays already. It's unbalanced. They're not going to be able to do it. And then he makes a play. And then at the last play for it to crescendo that way, I think was just great for the arc. And I think it leaves a really lasting impression in terms of the performance. Yeah, but have there been better performances? Maybe, but that one was pretty consistent. And it just kind of hit all the right notes, I guess.
Right, and that's what I mean, right? Like, there's been more prolific quarterback performances for sure. Guys who have, just thrown for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns and, that kind of thing. But in terms of their grade on the test that was given to them, it's hard to score much higher than Jayden did. It's hard to, 21 of 23. Like, it's not. That's probably going to be his career high completion percentage in his third ever game.
Right.
Like 91%. If he ever hits that again, wow. And that's fine. That's fine. He could hit 85% 17 times more in his career, and those would all be amazing games. But it's not 91%, and that's what he hit on Monday night. But I think the thing that really stuck out to me watching it back on tape, Logan, was the decision making. Because there's been times this year where you're like, oh, he's missed this opportunity, right? He's scrambled, his eyes are dropped. And I thought, I'm sure that whoever the color analyst was this week on the Commanders radio broadcast did a great job of this as well. But as I was watching it on television, I thought Troy Aikman did a really good job of highlighting, the kind of struggles that Jayden's had so far. They're relative struggles, right? But of like, hey, he has dropped his eyes when he's gotten pressure, and he's looking to run when he scrambles as opposed to throw. And, you saw maybe a few examples, but then all of a sudden in this game, he's doing that with the right regularity. When he is scrambling to run, you go back and watch it on tape and you're like, wow, there was no one open. And I think not only is there no one open, he realizes no one's going to get open. Like, the play is dead based off the coverage. There's no options, and he rescues it. And so when we talk about efficiency, it's like, how much do you get out of each down compared to what's available? And he consistently outperformed that, or at least reached that. And that's all you could possibly ask for in a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think the other thing is, like, I use PFF for my film, and you go back and they have the grades for every player, and you're like, blue is a good grade. So if you see any kind of shade of blue, it's really good. And all of a sudden there's the darkest blue I've ever seen on a grade, and it's Jayden, like a 99%, which I've never seen a grade like that. And again, it speaks to the performance and the decision making. And I'm really glad you brought up, like, keeping your eyes up, like in the scramble. There's that completion to Noah Brown in the red zone, and that's a play that he doesn't make 2 weeks ago. He kind of keeps his eyes on the field. Noah Brown's working for him. He delivers a strike. They get tackled on like the 1-inch line. But
yeah. By the way, did you watch Sam Cosmi on that play?
No, I didn't. I missed it. Was he?
Oh my God! I have the clip saved. I will send it to you. I put it out on Twitter, which of course you're not on, so you didn't see it there. Cosmi on that play, he has no one to block, so he finds work and he knocks 95 over, like, from, he was lined up over the center and Biotish is blocking him. He knocks him over outside the tackle box. So he just comes over and waylays him. But then as Jayden starts to scramble, he gets out in front to block and then realizes Jayden's going to throw. And he's like, oh, crap, I'm about to be downfield. He doesn't back up, Logan. He falls over backwards. He looks to his right and sees where the line of scrimmage is and goes, whoa, and then falls over backwards, like backwards barrel roll to avoid the legal man downfield penalty. It is A-plus work from Sam Cosmi on that play.
That guy had a pretty solid game as well, but I like the stuff like that, and like there was a couple times where I'm like, oh, maybe if you work, there was like a seam, like comeback concept where I'm like, oh, if you work to the left, like Joe Burrow makes that throw, but again, he worked to the right, it wasn't there, he scrambles for like a 5-6 yard gain. So even in those moments where you're like, could you be nitpicky here? Yeah, but like if I'm being realistic, like this is still an excellent play. Like the coverage is taking this away, like get what you can get, like, and it just was like that at every level, right? Him as a runner, he was great, so obviously scoring the touchdown, getting first downs. The play calling I thought was great in terms of kind of knowing when to push him and knowing when to kind of hold him back. I thought they had a really good feel, Cliff and Jayden, for each other, which was awesome to see. But I do think it was a special performance, like no doubt about it. You don't beat the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow and not have a special performance from your quarterback, like straight up. And I think he did. Like it really comes down to the decision making, the maturity, and I like the poise. I know people throw that word out quite a bit, but like that environment was nuts. And for him just to be so calm, so cool and collected. And like, how many times this year have you watched not only rookie quarterbacks, but, you know, even guys who've been in the league for 3, 4, 5 years, and they get in a hostile environment and the offense just feels unsettled because, you know, they can't get the cadence worked out, whatever it is. And I never felt that. It felt like they were at home. You know, they were at Northwest Field, kind of operating their play. And I give a lot of credit to him for that level of composure in those moments. And again, great game plan by Cliff, I thought, as well. But really, it was special, and it will be special. I mean, it's historic for a reason. And so, you know, we can talk about every single play that he had, but I think it was the consistency of the performance in terms of not making mental mistakes, not making unforced errors. And I think the thing that I come back to is, like, even in really great quarterback performances, they usually make a mistake. They usually make an unforced error. And I never felt like he got there. The one I'd kind of be semi-critical of is the big box fade to Terry where he doesn't set his feet. But again, we're picking hairs here. You know, we're splitting hairs here in terms of what he should have done and what he could have done there. But on the whole, man, it was special performance, and it was fun to watch.
Yeah, he also missed Terry, obviously, early on that deep over route where you're like, dang, he is wide open. But he's taking pressure. If he sees it faster and throws with more anticipation, then he probably isn't as worried about the pressure. But that is kind of the thing, is like, that was almost the breaking point where he's like, okay, if Terry is even, I can trust him. Like, Terry's going to be where he's supposed to be. And you see the anticipation he throws the deep ball with. And there's the great stat that they had on the broadcast that he, for all the deep balls that he threw to Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. in college and everybody else, Brandon Ayuk going back to Arizona State, he never had a completion in college of 50-plus air yards. That was his first one. And he aired that sucker out there for Terry. And when he threw it, like, Terry is even at best with the corner and behind the safety. And he, like, in front of, I should say, the safety. And he airs that sucker out there. And it was kind of like, once he was late on that deep over route, it was kind of like, okay, like, I can't be late. I can't miss these opportunities. And one thing, you know, that we'll talk about more with Cliff is, like, the balance of the screens versus the deep stuff. And I feel like he kind of earned Cliff's trust. Real quick before we transition to that and some of the more schematic elements of the offense and what we liked, one more thing I wanted to just say about Jayden that I think has impressed me so far this season, or maybe surprised me, is he has a little more shake than I thought. Like, there is a little more Lamar Jackson to him than I initially thought watching him in college at LSU. And maybe it's because he was able to just straight up run away from people at LSU in a way that he can't in the NFL because these are better athletes. But you think of the scramble where he rolls out, sticks his foot in the ground, comes back inside. And then there's the play on the sideline where he, like, stops short, does the little spin, shakes the guy off, and then walks across the first down. It's like a gain of like 3 or 4 yards, but most guys get tackled, you know, for -2. And that moment, like the swagger that he breaks that tackle with, and then just like, oh, I'm going to walk across the line of scrimmage or walk across the first down and then step out of bounds. That was so Lamar Jackson in the best possible way that I think that has actually surprised me a little bit because, you know, while he wasn't a pure straight line runner, like he was somewhere between what Robert was, for instance, and what Lamar is the shakiest guy in the league, perhaps. I think he's a little closer to Lamar on that scale than I initially imagined. And what that does is, like, those extra yards really add up, and especially when he converts them to first downs. And now he actually passed Lamar in this game for most first downs gained by a quarterback rushing on the season, and that keeps your offense on schedule in a way that is, like, impossibly valuable.
Yeah, impossibly valuable for sure. But I don't know, it's interesting because people have been saying that to me, but I always thought he was a very skilled runner. Obviously, I didn't think he was Lamar, but I think he had the ability to make people miss, and he had that kind of suddenness and that natural feel, which I thought was really exciting. And everyone was like, oh, he's going to take big hits. But because of that feel as a runner, I thought, you know, like, he's shown an ability to kind of skate stuff, and he's got really good spatial awareness. And, you know, everyone kind of kept comparing him to Robert. And, like, I understand the comparison, but I never really agreed with it because it, like, Robert was so linear. He didn't understand, like, the space of the tacklers, and he had a really hard time making people miss. And, like, when you watch Jayden in college, like, there was a play versus Missouri where he has a quarterback draw, and, like, his suddenness to kind of, you know, find the hole through the offensive line, burst to the outside, make a guy miss at the second level and score a touchdown. I mean, like it was there in college. And so I think it's cool now that, like, kind of maybe people who didn't watch as much film on him, like, get to see see him do that, get to see this skill set, and understand like you bring up, maybe this is the best point coming out of this game. His ability to get first downs with his legs is incredibly valuable. Like we're gonna talk about Cliff here in a second, but and Cliff's like in his bag, man. Cliff's doing a great job calling these games, like just calling the game. Like you can talk about scheme all you want and formations, but he just has such a good feel for like when to call the draw, when to call the screen, when to kind of work the middle of the field, like when to run these RPO zone. He's got such a good feel for that. But in addition to that, and I do think Jayden supports this, Jayden's ability to get first downs or get you out of bad second and tens, third and tens into like manageable either first downs or second and shorts, third and shorts is incredibly valuable for this offense because they're never stressed. Because like even I forget what it was late in the game. I think they were at a 2nd and 20, and he scrambles or 1st and 15, and he scrambles for a 7-yard gain. Like to be after a 1st and 15 and a 2nd and 8 after that situation because of his ability to run when everything's covered up it just shows you like it takes me back to 2000. I think it was 2021 when Daniel Jones was playing really, really well and scrambling for a bunch of first downs, and you're able to manage an offense through that. And obviously he's playing better than Daniel Jones was that year, but especially in this game, but that it just raises the floor of your offense in such a nice way. Like, and again, and you mentioned it, he's always seemed, at least in this game, making the correct decisions about when to run and when not to run. So I just think it's this really nice skill set that I can't overstate how valuable it is that he keeps consistently making good decisions in that department.
Yeah, the last thing I want to hit on with Jayden more specifically before we get into Cliff, it does touch on like the play calling though, is what like, and this is a huge credit to Cliff and that staff for preparing Jayden, but also obviously to Jayden for doing the work. His ability to get in the right play as a rookie and like time score situation, and specifically I'm thinking of on the final drive of the game to set up the 3rd and 7. They're at 2nd and 20, and Jayden calls, or maybe they're in 1st and 20. I don't know what it is, but like they called back-to-back screens. And the first one I think was called by Cliff, and they both went to Diami. But the second one, Jayden clearly checks into. They show him on the broadcast. He's like rubbing his chin, like he's got a look, and he knows like we just need to get closer. Like we need to make this 3rd and manageable, and it might even be go time on 4th down. So like let's make sure that we're in a good situation. And so they get into that 3rd and 7 by 2 really solid gains from Diami Brown on screens. And so to get that yardage in that situation, to understand like, oh, I have the confidence to run this here. It's crunch time, less than 5 minutes to go on the clock. Like we're trying to ice away the game, and I'm comfortable changing the play that my play caller just sent in because that's what he would want me to do. One, you credit everyone else who makes the blocks, and Diami, who's been a fantastic screen runner this year. But the chutzpah, if you will, to make the audibles at the line as a rookie and to be right with the consistency that he's right, I think is pretty big time.
Yeah, and again, they get like a 0 look there, and I think that's a really good check versus 0 is that kind of slammer screen, at least that's what we called it in Kyle's offense, where you get the 2 receivers blocking out, and then the offensive line kind of working that way, and I love it. But I think on the 4th down, he was going to check it again, and then they called timeout. And I think, again, it's like that's good by the coaching staff. And I think this is great in terms of insulating, is you let him do what he needs to do, but if in that big moment you kind of call timeout, you bring him over and say, hey, man, we want this, you know what I mean? Like take it out of his hands a little bit. I think that balance has been really good because like, you mentioned the checking. He checked the Austin Ekeler run last week. He checked to the screen this week. And there's little subtle things that he does in the play where he's checking or he's alerting stuff. And I think he does a great job of that. And it's really, really impressive. But I also think that's a perfect sequence because it shows like, hey, he's getting ready to check it again on the 4th and 4. And then they just call timeout. And I think they're calling timeout because the play clock's getting low, but also it's like, hey man, we want this. Like, let's make sure we get this called. And I think that's, again, just a really good relationship between the coaches. Sometimes you want them to have the decision, but sometimes you need to protect them from themselves. And I think that was a really cool moment of seeing both sides of that coin on that drive, which is great. And again, like speaks to Jayden's success and also the offensive coaching staff and all the things they've done to insulate him.
By the way, on that second one to Diami, if Cosme gets a piece of his guy, but his guy ultimately makes the tackle, if Cosme can somehow stick that block, that thing is out.
It's a touchdown,
Like, that was,
that's why you call it, is because like the numbers are really favorable, and the guy that's got to make the tackle is pursuing from the box. So if you can beat him, which most receivers can, like I can't tell you, we used to watch cut-ups with Kyle where it's like, here's Andre Johnson scoring 5 touchdowns on slammer screen versus 0. Here's one versus Julio Jones, same thing. And it's a really effective play. So I love that I love that they installed it in the week, because obviously you don't just call that in the moment. You've prepped that as your 0 answer. And I love the execution of it. Obviously, if it's a little bit better, it's 6, and we're not talking about all these great throws he had late in the game. But
Right. All right, take command. If you want the full podcast with the defensive film breakdown, the rest of what we thought of how Cliff did, the O-line, everything, you got to check it out. Go to Take Command on your favorite podcast app, or check out the full episode at the Team 980 on YouTube. When we get back here on the Hoffman Show, it is a competition Wednesday. Got our picks. I got my picks. Anthony's got his picks. We'll see how he did, and we'll pick 3 new games against the spread, head-to-head, and we'll see if either one of us has to spin the wheel of mediocre punishments. That's next on the Team 980. Gentlemen Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming on YouTube too at the Team 980. All right, let's talk about it, Anthony. Let's talk about how we did last week as we go head-to-head in a Competition Wednesday. Of course, it is Competition Wednesday for the Commanders, and Anthony and I wanted to find a way this year for us to go head-to-head as well. So we already pick all the games on Fridays, and that's one thing to pick all the games. But we know the more challenging thing is to pick them against the spread. And so we each get 3 games that we get to choose. So it's not the same 3 games. We each get 3 games. We pick the games, and then we see how we did record-wise. And if one of us beats the other, then we spin the wheel of mediocre punishment. And there's a bunch of stuff on there. Anthony has the wheel at his side in the producer studio. And he has lost the first 2 weeks. He still owes me lunch, something we're going to take care of Monday after Wizards Media Day. So we'll go interview a bunch of tall people, and then Anthony's going to buy me lunch. And then, Anthony, what's the other one that you owe? Oh, it was the fantasy sub. How'd you do in your fantasy league this weekend after I subbed out your starting defense, which actually didn't wind up being as bad as it could have been, because you had someone in, I don't remember who I subbed out, but I subbed in the Falcons off your bench to face the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, just as a little more background on that, Anthony had kind of messed up in that he had a bunch of injured dudes already. He had to make some substitutions. I kind of told him, like, hey, bro, you better fix your lineup. So it was either I really screwed him and subbed out the quarterback situation, which actually would have worked out all right because Bo Nix was your backup quarterback.
Yep.
And so I actually wound up, I think, doing you a disservice and not subbing in your quarterback. But then I did sub out and put the Falcons defense in against the Chiefs. How'd you do in fantasy this weekend?
So I improved to 3-0 on the young season. I beat Doug, who I think he was the 2nd or 3rd highest scoring team in the fantasy league.
Doug.
And I didn't just beat him, Craig. I spanked him. Even though you didn't subbed out my defense. I still managed to beat him by, let me do this math real quick, 37.
Dang.
Beat him by 37. I'm looking at some of the other scores, 166, 160, 137. Yeah, I wasn't even the 4th highest scoring. But yeah.
So in a way, you got kind of lucky.
Yeah, because I didn't face any of those teams, but my team still did pretty good. Jonathan Taylor, he went off for me. James Cook, you subbed in the Falcons defense for me. They got me 2 points. The 49ers defense is who I had in, and they only got me 5 points. So,
you know what happened to me, Anthony?
You lost.
I looked like I was in the driver's seat, and then Jayden Daniels happened. And I got slowed. I really made a mistake in I had Dallas Goedert on my bench. I basically lost the game at the tight end position. And it's look, I will not complain about my fantasy situation compared to the real pain that Sam Laporta had to deal with as he got hurt. But I had Laporta in, he got hurt, and then Dallas Goedert on my bench, and he lost his freaking mind. And so I was a minus 22 of my potential at the tight end position, and I lost by 8. So that's unfortunate. Also didn't have the best wide receiver day. James Conner gave me absolutely nothing at the running back spot.
Oh yeah, they had him in a box.
So I probably need to figure out something at the running back position. But that's a after the show problem. I lost. But then this week, Anthony, it's me and you.
You don't play me, do you?
I sure do.
Uh-oh, you know what that means.
It means I got to play better. / my guys got to play better.
I like the spread in our game. It's 2.
We're expected to be just 2 points apart?
Yeah.
Nice. I haven't even adjusted my lineup yet, so maybe
Oh, okay, never mind.
Maybe we can change. Have you? You certainly didn't last week. You had injured dudes in on Sunday morning.
I mean, I'll probably change. I'll put the 49ers defense in. That's about it.
Okay.
Everybody else will, remain the same. I have Deontay Johnson. He went off. Travis Kelce still hasn't had a good game. We're fine over here. We're just fine.
Okay.
Nick Chubb isn't back yet. TJ Hawkinson isn't back yet. Hey, look, we're doing just fine. 3-0. We'll stay up here while you stay down here.
Okay. That's fine. Whatever you just said. So let's look back at how we did last week, and then let's get to it. Competition Wednesday this week. I probably should be better if I did these picks ahead of time, as I'm literally looking at the list right now. All right, Ant. You have, or who'd you have last week, and how did you do?
So I had Pitt minus 1.5.
They won by 10.
They did indeed.
Good start for you.
I had the Buffalo Bills minus 5.
They won by 500, so you're good there.
And then my third one, I was going to go with Vegas. I mean, not Vegas. I was going to go with the Panthers to cover, and I didn't. I went with Houston minus 2, Craig.
How'd that go?
They got embarrassed. That's what happened.
Yeah, they did.
They got beat down.
They lost by 1 million.
Yeah.
So you went 2-1. I
Exactly.
had the Patriots plus 6 on Thursday Night Football. So I started the weekend very quickly 0-1. But I bounced back. Seattle put the work to Miami as they had all their quarterback issues. I had them minus 4. And then on Sunday Night Football, a little bit of a closer one than I wanted it to be. But Kansas City, I had minus 3.5 over Atlanta. They won by 5, 22-17. So now we have a decision to make, Anthony. If we tie, what do we do? Do we do a rock, paper, scissors? Do we carry it over and it's 2 spins next week? Is it, is it golf rules? Like if we tie on a hole, whoever had the best score the previous week, and thus I would win because I was the winner coming into the week?
So we're definitely not going with that option.
Is that what would you say that if you were the winner coming into the week?
Debatably. Possibly, Craig. I'm not going to rule it out, but I haven't been in the driving seat yet, so no.
Okay.
I like rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Or we can play Connect 4.
Connect 4 is that takes too long.
It does take long, but I promise you I would have made it quick. I'm pretty good at Connect 4.
Yeah, I doubt
One
you
of my
make it.
favorite. Oh!
I think. All right, we'll play Connect
We
4
should
another
have put
time.
Connect. Oh my gosh.
Okay,
Oh,
we'll
I
play-
gotta write it down.
Yeah, bring Connect 4 in next week when I'm back.
I'm
in the
gonna
office.
bring it in. I'm
Okay.
gonna bring it in, Craig.
Okay, I'm sure you're good. But like at the end of the day, look, counting is famously not my strong suit. But if I can not have my ADD strike, there's only so good you can be at Connect 4.
Okay.
That said, I don't love I kind of like the idea of raising the stakes for next week. I kind of like
Double
the
or
idea,
nothing kind of thing.
Yeah. So if it
But what
carries
if we
over,
go 2-1 again?
then I guess it would be worth 3 spin. You could wind up having to do. I mean,
Okay. What about this, Craig?
Okay.
What if we do 3 games, and then if we tie, we do a 4th game, and we have to pick the spread.
Well, we have to pick the same game and be on opposite sides of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay.
I like that. So we should really do that every week. We should have a head-to-head game.
Yeah.
That's the tiebreaker.
That
So
would
we
be
should
smart.
pick 2 plus a head-to-head. Okay. Well, that means
No, because what if we tied again?
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. Well, the thing is though, like, what if I would have been say 2-1 and you would have been 1-2, but you got the head-to-head game right? That it doesn't count.
Head-to-head, doesn't count.
It's only a tiebreaker. Okay.
Yep.
I like this. I
All
like this. I like this thought. Okay. So that means that Anthony and I are going to have to put our heads together because our picks that we had written down, we now need to find if there's a head-to-head and then pick another game.
Yeah.
So we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll hit the picks. That's next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 on a Competition Wednesday. the Titans have enough that I go, I think they can beat that Dolphins team. The Dolphins are in a bad way, man.
Do you not have faith in Mike McDonald?
I do have a lot of faith in Mike McDaniel, but Mike
McDaniel.
The way their system is set up, I don't know that he's going to be able to fix it in a week. Their system is so set up for Tua to be the quarterback and to get the ball out quickly. Their offensive line's not very good. Then if you can sit on the run, you kind of force some things down the field, and it's just not really set up for them to do that. Their quarterbacking side. The Titans stink, bro. And the more I think about it, the more I don't want to do it. So I'm just going to hold my nose and take the Titans. It feels dumb until I win next week.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'd rather see it before I could actually still believe it. The last game that I'm going to pick is the Sunday night football game with the Ravens and your Buffalo Bills.
Ooh.
I think this is the game. Josh Allen's going to come back down to earth. All those people that are talking about the Bills, the best team in the NFL. And
they have been so far.
They look good. They played the Jags last week, but, we'll see what they do.
Embarrassed them.
Yeah, they did. But we'll see what they do
Their
against
offense
this.
is they've had the same number of punts, I think, the last couple of weeks as the Commanders.
Dang.
Yeah, I don't think they punt. I think the only team that punted on Monday night between two games was the Jags.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to just – I think Baltimore is going to run off on the Bills, man. I got them at 2.5, so I guess they're begging you to pick
I don't think that's that stinky of a fish where it's the Ravens at home. They say you get 3 points at home, so they're telling you the Bills are half point better.
I'm still trying to,
the home field advantage, Sunday Night Football. I've seen Lamar do too much in prime time. I have too much respect for the Ravens to pick the Bills, even though I want to. And I also I'm are the Ravens really going to drop to 1-3?
I hope you pick the Bills, Craig.
I'm not going to pick the Bills.
Okay.
I'm going to upset you in a different way.
Oh.
I'm going against your Colts. The Steelers are going into Indy, and they only have to win by 1.5. So unless they win by 1, as long as they win, I'm good. Which, watch me get screwed by that. But, this defense, this Mike Tomlin defense, this TJ Watt defense that hasn't given up 10 points to anybody so far this year against the current version that we're seeing of Anthony Richardson, there's some boom or bust potential for sure, but I think they'll be able to shut down some of the big plays, and I don't trust Anthony Richardson not to turn the ball over a ton. This has at least one pick six all over it, written all over it.
At least?
Dude, he is.
He does make boneheaded plays.
He is erratic.
Yeah.
Erratic.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go Pittsburgh -1.5 at Indy.
Well, I can't wait for next Wednesday.
Yeah, I can't either. Okay, should we tie again, Anthony? We are taking the biggest spread on the board. And I told myself I was not going, after last week, after what they did against the Jets, I'm done with the Patriots. And here I am again. New England is a 10-point dog in San Francisco. I'm basically taking the 10 points blind and just hoping that it's the NFL and teams don't win by 10 points very often. I'm taking the +10. You're taking the San Francisco -10. And somehow I'm sitting for the fourth week out of 4. I am sitting on the Patriots. Although this one is in break glass in case of emergency only.
Well, this one's concerning too. More and more injuries for San Fran. Javon Hargrave, I think, is out for the season. So that's more concerning.
Yes, it is. But you're the one who suggested this game, so.
Yeah, I couldn't go with the Browns or the Raiders. Couldn't go with any of these other teams.
There's another game that I just saw that I kind of want to sub.
Philly, Tampa.
No, I did think about that one. Rams, Bears. Chicago's favored by 2.5. I'm so scared that Chicago figures it out, but the Rams are so well coached and Chicago's not.
Yeah.
Do I bet against the Bears again? I guess I bet on the Bears in week. I bet on the Bears twice.
Why don't we go Minnesota, Green Bay?
which side of that. I don't know which side of that I want. That's the problem. I
think that makes it even better because I don't know which side I want either.
Well, that's not very much of a competition. We're just flipping a coin.
Well,
Let's compete, Anthony.
I think I want to go with Minnesota then.
I don't feel strongly enough to not.
Well, I think I want to go with Green Bay.
I don't feel strongly enough. If you wanted Chicago, I would sub Rams Bears. If not, I kind of want to sub Rams Bears for my Titans Dolphins pick.
You sub them for your Titans Dolphins pick.
Okay.
I'm not going with the Bears at all. They stink.
I can't bring myself to bet on Will Levis. That's the sign of a healthy human. All right, I'm going LA plus 2.5. LA plus 2.5 against Chicago. I've bet on the Bears. I've bet against
Jacksonville,
the Bears.
right?
No, I do not. I thought about it, but I bailed out at the last second.
I mean, do you feel confident that Jacksonville will cover?
Did you see what happened to them on Monday night?
Okay, just making sure.
No. Would I bet on it if I had to choose a side? Yes.
But what about the Commanders game?
I don't know what to do with that game, bro.
Me either.
I certainly don't want to bet on Arizona.
Me either.
And they're favored. So I bet on Washington. So that's, but then I want to stay away from Washington because that feels like extra juju.
Okay.
I will give you till the end of the commercial break to try to find another suitable alternative so you don't have to take San Francisco minus 10. But other than that, I've got Atlanta minus 2.5, Pittsburgh minus 1.5, LA plus 2.5, and then New England plus 10 is the tiebreaker. Anthony has San Francisco minus 10, and then
San Fran minus 10, Dallas minus 6, Seahawks plus 3.5, Baltimore minus 2.5, baby.
All right, that's Competition Wednesday. We'll see how we do next Wednesday. And one of us definitely will be spinning the wheel of mediocre punishment. When we get back, pick 6 time to get you updated on the latest Commanders headlines of the day. is the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming on YouTube at the Team 980. All 3 hours, or today, 2 hours, 45 minutes, as we will be giving way to Capitals and Devils coming up at 6:45, preseason hockey here on the Team 980. But let's get things going. We are already a few minutes behind, so let's get caught up and get you caught up with the latest headlines from Command Land, which this week is in Tempe, Arizona. It's time for the Pick Six.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is caught!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
We set out to find a leader, someone who could take this franchise to the next level and build an elite team that consistently competes for championships.
Let's dive right in with number one, shall we, Ant?
Number 1.
All right, unfortunately, the biggest storyline coming out of Arizona today, where, again, the Commanders went straight to Arizona after the game in Cincinnati to avoid the double flight back to the East Coast, then all the way out west. So they just went to Arizona. They're practicing at Arizona State. And the biggest thing as they get back to work today is Austin Ekeler has already been ruled out for the weekend. Of course, he suffered that concussion in the second half on Monday night in the win after he had another monster game. We talked off the top of the show if you missed it, so definitely worth checking out the podcast or on the rewind about how significant of a loss that is. But here's Dan Quinn talking about Austin Ekeler not even making the trip with the team out to Arizona.
Yeah, we'll be. Austin won't make it, for the game, and it's the right call for him. Not on our short week to go. We'll have a chance to see what next week looks like then. But we do have a lot of confidence. It's one of the groups that we have a deep crew that can roll strong, and so when called upon, we're certainly ready to do that. And we're also excited for J-Mac. He's somebody, hasn't got a lot of touches, a lot of opportunities, but I do know that he is somebody, when given those chances, he does not miss his ops.
So we're talking about J-Mac, Jeremy McNichols, who will become the second running back behind Brian Robinson. I would also imagine they call up someone else from the practice squad, because that is a position that is way too, there's way too many things that can happen in a game to be down to one running back. You're not going into a game with two. So Michael Wiley seems like the logical next guy up. He had a good camp. Feels like he was one of the later cuts. He's a guy that's played special teams for them in training camp. So I do think that he'll probably be the guy. I could also see like a Kaz Allen or, see who else they potentially bring up. There's always running backs floating out there too, but I tend to think that they'll probably just call someone up from the practice squad. They'll fly them out there ASAP and get them ready to go for the weekend. And if the practice squad guys aren't already out there, I imagine they probably actually did travel because they need them to practice. They need them to do the scout team stuff. So all those guys should be out there in Arizona. Unfortunately, Ekeler was not the only player that was ruled out today. Ferrell also ruled out. He's going to miss his second straight game. So expect more Javonte Jean-Baptiste, Jamin Davis, etc. on the edge. And we'll see if they call up Andre Jones Jr. as they did last week. Again, you get 3 practice squad call-ups for any single player in any given season before you have to fully elevate them to the 53-man roster. The good injury news for Washington is that Emmanuel Forbes was a full participant today, so hopefully they'll have their full complement of corners back. They gave a couple guys rest days, including Zach Ertz. The one that I was like, it's not good. Sam Cosmi, DNP Achilles. So I'm guessing some Achilles soreness. They can't list it as rest/precautionary because he's technically got an injury, but I would imagine Cosmi's going to play. He played great in the game on Monday night, but Cosmi clearly managing something as he continues his season here, and it's something to keep an eye on as he did miss practice today. On the Arizona side, they're likely going to be without Trey McBride. He was in a nasty collision over the weekend in their last game and has a concussion. He was the DNP today. And amongst the guys that were limited for Arizona, their starting right tackle, Kelvin Beachum, who returned to practice. He missed the game on Sunday, so that's actually an upgrade in some ways for him. Budda Baker and Marvin Harrison Jr. also limited for the Cardinals. So that's kind of the injury news to get us started here on the Pick 6.
Number 2.
Of course, the team is in Arizona because they're playing Arizona, but it is kind of rare that the teams do this. I think like West Coast teams do it more. They get stuck on the East Coast, and instead of going back and forth, they'll just stay on the East Coast and practice somewhere, and then maybe fly to either their second game location or stay in their first game location, however they do it. But you don't want to have multiple cross-country flights in consecutive weeks. So the Commanders, with the Monday night game, the short week, just went straight road game to road game, and they're going to be in Arizona. So how does that actually change things for Dan Quinn? Sam Fortier asked that question of the Commanders head coach earlier.
Absolutely the same process. And so the team came out early to set up our servers, video, all the stuff so we could just take Virginia, put it down in Arizona, and go play. And man, we're really fortunate. People here at Arizona State have been great, allowed us to, have access to, the practice field. So we're ready to go.
Simple enough. Let's take Virginia, move it to Arizona. If that's possible, I would just like to ask Anthony. There's some facets of Arizona that I would like to bring back to the DMV. Not that I'm not saying Arizona's better than the DMV. Don't get it twisted. But can we bring some tacos back? Can we bring some warmer weather back? Can we maybe, if they found a way to wring the humidity out and they can bring that formula back? Just a couple of my favorite, wider roads. There's a couple of facets of Arizona that I quite like, that I would like to bring here to the East Coast, to not Virginia, but to DC. I'm in it for all of the DMV, all DC, Maryland, and Virginia.
I like the way you think, Greg.
Yeah.
You're all inclusive. I love it.
Get someone on the beat on the horn and tell Dan Quinn to bring back tacos. That's basically what I'm saying. Okay, so those are the two big things, right? All the injuries, and they're in Arizona. When we get back, we'll wrap up the Pick 6 with the rest of what Dan Quinn had to say about how the defense is playing, how the wide receivers are coming along, an update on how he thinks the rookies look through 3 weeks, and one particular group that's been in a lot of focus that Dan Quinn got asked about today that I thought his answer was worth hearing for you. That is next on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming on YouTube at the Team 980 if you want to check us out on video, on demand. Cut up the show as well. You can leave comments on any of the segments, and then we'll read them a little bit before this time tomorrow. Never read the comments 5:30 on Thursdays. All kinds of good stuff on the show that you might miss because, well, your car ride's only so long, and we try to make it as available as we can for you to listen whenever it is that you can. Of course, the Hoffman Show podcast also available anytime, anywhere. All right, let's get back into our Pick 6 top Commanders headlines of the day here on this Wednesday as Dan Quinn and Jayden Daniels address the media out in Arizona. Let's pick it up with number 3.
Number 3.
The defense obviously is not playing up to the standard that they want. They are dead last in the NFL in defensive DVOA, but there are some signs, if you squint your eyes and you know what to look for, of things starting to improve a little bit. Obviously, there is a long way to go. Improving on terrible only makes you not terrible, which no one has ever said as a compliment. So Dan Quinn was asked about the baseline thing that he's looking for this year, the play style. After watching the tape, did he see a team that was at least playing fast and physical, even if they need to be fast and physical with better execution?
Yeah, not yet. I'd say we're gaining there, and so we're still building onto that. But we're not hitting the marks that we want to yet. By no means is that where we're going to end up. And I love the crew. I love what we're about. And so as we're going to grow, they're going to play faster. They're going to play more violent. And so the more of that we do, then you stack on some more and stack on some more. But we're not to the space we will be yet, John, no.
And that's there on tape. Like, you see more guys than 2 weeks ago. You see Jeremy Chin playing a lot faster. We'll talk more about him in just a second. But I think you see, some of the DBs. You see Benjamin St-Juste. Like, St-Juste had a run fit in this game that I'm like, I haven't seen you do that in a long time. Logan made that comment as well on Take Command, and I immediately knew the play that he was talking about. And I was like, yeah. I was like, what safety just filled that? That was Juice? Dang, that was a big hit. So you're getting it from certain places. They need to get it more up front. Wagner and Luvu, obviously, their play recognition, I think, in this system needs to be a little bit better. And part of that is how are they playing off the guys in front of them. So there's room to grow on all three levels of the defense. But more guys are joining the party every week. Guys that maybe have been there or being a little bit more consistent with it. But there still is a long, long way to go. And in fact, Ant, let's go ahead and reorganize what's on the page here. Let's go ahead and talk about that safety group. Let's talk about Quan Martin and Jeremy Chin and what Dan Quinn has seen from those guys. That'll be our number 4 today.
Number 4.
Here is the head coach on his 2 starting safeties.
I thought, number one, I loved, rotation of people, but I thought I really was impressed by Quan. I thought the hitting, the physicality for him, I felt that. I felt the energy for that. I felt what that looked like. So using Percy, using Chin, using him all in different roles, it's one of our deepest groups, and the ability to use all of them is really important. It's a long season, different roles for everybody, different matchups for everybody. And I thought there was a great play by Quan on a pass breakup to Gesicki down the left sideline on a 3rd down play that I really spoke to his range. And I thought that was one of the big plays in the game for Chin.
Yeah, that one, he's obviously talking about Chin there. He said Quan not the first time, but that big hit that he had, played that one perfectly. And I think that's a great play to point out, too, of traditionally, Percy's been the guy who's over the top, and Quan is down in the box, or mostly Chin, and then Percy's back. But on this particular play, Percy's in man-to-man on Gesicki, or in quasi-man-to-man with the coverage that they're playing, and then Chin is helping over the top as one of two deep safeties. And Chin holds his water, holds his disguise, and just trusts that he can outrun a tight end. And even if he's got a long way to go to the sideline, he can get out there, and he does. And that is not what he is known for. He's known for making big plays in the box. But what you saw, the versatility in terms of Quan, Chin, and Percy Butler, is the first two games, you really didn't see Percy down in the box. And because of the matchups, because they wanted that big, long, fast body that Percy Butler is, playing coverage on some of these tight ends and backs underneath, they put Quan over the top even when Percy was on the field, and that worked out okay for them. I still think the area for growth in Quan obviously is kind of being that ninja safety where you have the better ability to hold your disguise, to roll super late post snap. He gives some stuff away. Burrow does a really good job with his cadence, so that's part just Joe Burrow being Joe Burrow, and you have to give credit to the quarterback taking advantage of a guy who's really in his first year as a full-time safety, and Quan in only his second year in the league. And I'd rather have Quan give away the disguise and not be late. The problem was he was both. And so there's a couple times where you maybe give it away and other guys are then a little bit late because Joe knows exactly what coverage that you're playing. So there's some tiny little things to clean up there that aren't so tiny, right? They're big things and can lead to big plays. But overall, the speed, the physicality, the capability of Quan Martin jumps off the tape. And he's certainly, I think, become one of Dan Quinn's favorite players, which is interesting because he is one of the few success stories of the last regime's drafting. And I don't say that to be pejorative or anything. It's just is the reality that most guys aren't here. Some of the guys that are here are major question marks, and Quan Martin fits what they want to be to a T. So credit, in fact, to them for getting Quan, and credit to these guys for figuring out the best way to use him. As for this year's rookie class,
number 5.
Kind of varied results, I think, up and down the roster. And Dan Quinn talked about a few of his rookies in particular and how they are coming along today.
What I've seen early is a little bit what I've seen late. By that, I'll say these guys are like a rare level of competitor. They just don't back down. I knew Mike also had leadership skills early on, where guys would look to him, not just the other rookie class, but some of the defensive backs as well. So I would say that's what I saw as they're growing into their season. They're just 3 games in, so each of these opportunities, they're so important. I think when we look back a few months from now, some of the mistakes that guys make early, they don't make late. But you do have to fight through some of those with the guys, and I have unbelievable belief in them about what they're capable of becoming. And that sometimes happens with the youngest players to make sure they get the experience. So by the time December and January football does come, they've lived through some of those. They have some scars to look back on, and they're really better for that.
I cannot give Mike Sainristil enough credit to be told, hey, dude, first career game at outside corner this weekend, you're going to have to cover Jamar Chase some one-on-one. And he didn't flinch. He didn't back down. Now, he got beat. And it wasn't particularly pretty on the one long touchdown that he gave up. But he comes back, was it the next series, 2 series later, and just absolutely waylays a dude on a screen to blow it up. Like, he is so physical for his size, and he's still figuring out how to play the run when he's a nickel player, and there's a lot of growth to happen for Mike Sainristil. But that's why he was a second-round pick, not a first. His leadership skills, his mentality, that's some next-level stuff. That said, he also knows the challenge on the rookie on the other side of the field this weekend. His old nemesis, Ohio State, Michigan rival, Mike Sainristil from Michigan. Marvin Harrison Jr. might be lining up across from him this weekend. And this is from JP Finley out there reporting in Arizona. So thanks, JP, for the sound. Mikey Sainristil on Marvin Harrison Jr.
He's a really good receiver, you know what I mean? I think, coming in the league as a rookie, he is, one of the better receivers in the rookie class. And what he did in college at, Ohio State, phenomenal. I think he's a, generational talent. So, I'm looking forward to going up against him again.
Mikey's probably going, he's a generational talent, but I'm going to shut him down. That's how that dude is wired. But, Anthony, speaking of wide receivers from Ohio State, finally,
number 6.
Commanders got two of their own that are pretty good, starting with number 17. And you saw the trust from Jayden Daniels to Terry McLaurin. How did it look through the vantage point of the head coach?
Yeah, I think it would be if you didn't have it, but those two certainly have a lot of trust together. I've been so impressed by him. He's got such a high standard about him, talking about Terry, where things, his approach, his consistency never has. And so all of us knew that about him. You know, that's what the NFL is, tight match coverages and making catches, and the ability to convert for him. You know, one of the third or fourth down receptions that he had, I thought was super impactful in the game.
And Terry's not the only guy who's starting to make a huge impact. Obviously, his was the biggest and should be. He's the number one guy. He's paid all that money to be that guy. That's not me begrudging his cash. It's just the reality of you take up that much of salary cap, you're expected to produce that much on the field. Noah Brown, brought in, of course, after training camp, after cuts. Terry's former receiver teammate at Ohio State, and had yet another big catch in a game. Not a ton of volume, but how is Noah Brown coming along in this offense, and can we expect to see more from him moving forward? Last but not least, from Dan Quinn.
I knew the competitor, you know, and I knew it would take some time, you know, to get acclimated to a entire new system. To be honest, he's, you know, beat even what my expectations were to get to that space. I think that speaks to the competitor that Noah is. But I love the group, you know, the different styles and attitudes that people bring. You know, I can remember clearly on a sideline, you know, a catch by Noah, and OZ, who wasn't in the game, was just excited to see that play happen. That type of like altruistic behavior from a team that's like absolutely, you know, out of their mind for their teammates that are making plays. Those are small margins that make a big difference for a team. And if the team continues into that space and makes that type of connection stronger and stronger, it makes everybody's role more valuable.
And the other guy that I think deserves a lot of credit for Noah Brown's development alongside Noah Brown primarily is Jayden Daniels. I mean, remember when he got here, we heard some of the stories of Jayden being like, hey, am I allowed to go work with him after practice? Because he's got to get up to speed. So the leadership from Jayden, the leadership from Terry, who I'm sure has spent time with his former college teammate, the self-starter nature of Noah Brown, like all these guys deserve credit. You know, Bobby Ingram, the receivers coach, like all these guys deserve credit for getting him up to speed. And I do think that he'll continue to be more and more involved in this offense moving forward. That's our pick six, biggest headlines of the day here on the Hoffman Show. When we get back, we'll wrap things up as we are off a little bit early tonight in lieu of hockey, preseason style, Capitals and Devils. So we'll wrap it up, including real things, next on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show wrapping up here on the Team 980, always alive as well on the free Odyssey app. Just about an hour from now, WNBA playoffs tip off. Anthony, I'm sure you'll be locked in. Sun and Fever. Actually, I'm curious. I know you'll be locked in for the game. Has the saga, if I just say the saga around this series, has that made it to your timeline?
The saga?
The Dejanay Carrington eye poke.
She poked somebody in the eye?
You didn't even know?
No.
Or are you being facetious?
I'm dead ass.
Yeah, she accidentally poked Caitlin in the eye. Caitlin's got a bit of a black eye from it. It was completely like she swiped at a ball and her nail was a quarter of an inch shorter. It wouldn't have done anything. Like total accident. But there's a whole thing because anything with Caitlin turns into a thing, not because of Caitlin, but because of the dumbest people possible apparently work in our profession sometimes, because it's not always fans. And this particular one blew my mind because there was like mostly stupid people on the internet saying things about it. And it's like, okay, we know what's up here. But then Christine Brennan, who has been a like actual journalist since the 1980s. This is a woman who has spent 40 years building a journalism career and seems determined to take her own credibility down over everything related to Caitlin Clark. This is like her 10th bad Caitlin Clark thing of the year. But not only is it just taking the world's dumbest possible take on Caitlin Clark, she, at the Connecticut Sun media availability, this professional sports journalist who is a trailblazer in her field, who had to deal with things, I'm sure, in the 80s, being a woman in sports journalism that we couldn't even imagine. She asked Dejanay Carrington, did you intentionally poke Caitlin in the eye? To her face. If I was in that scrum, there is a non-zero chance I would have said, Dejanay, you don't have to answer that. Christine, how long have you been covering professional basketball? 40 years? Do you think she poked her in the eye? Did that look like any kind of intentionality to you? Or did it look like she did? It wasn't even like a play was being made. Like she was falling backwards or something. Like clearly it was not intentional. Dejanay wasn't even looking at her. Do you think it was intentional? And if you do, then it's time to retire. And also, you clearly don't belong in the profession. And if not, then why the hell are you asking the question? It's not a relevant question. It is thoroughly embarrassing that she went to that extent to ask that question. And if Dejanay, like, I'm all for athletes being professional. I think you have to mostly answer the questions that are asked. If Dejanay Carrington had looked at Christine Brennan and said, what the bleep do you think? I would have said, that is the correct answer, ma'am. Well done. 10 points for Gryffindor, 0 for whatever house Christine Brennan belongs in.
Wow. I actually just looked up everything you're talking about right now. Listen to the audio. She asked a follow-up question, too, like really trying to push the narrative like, and Marina were laughing. I
thought when I heard this question got asked, it was asked by some absolute like Looney Tune who doesn't belong having a credential to any sporting event. That it was some news reporter from some outlet with an agenda that wanted to get their name on the news. And when I saw it was Christine Brennan, my jaw hit the floor. What a joke.
Wow. Anyway,
there's a game tonight for those of us that actually care about it and don't want to be weird about anything related to Caitlin Clark and would just like to see her rookie season extended. And on a basketball front, she's got to play a lot better than she did in the opener, Anthony. That was not a good performance. The good news, I think, for Indiana is they shot about as poorly as you can possibly shoot on good looks. So if they can just get those same looks, they're going to be fine. The bad news is defensively, they did not have anything for Connecticut, who scored in the 90s, even though they're more the grinded out team. However, next level basketball analysis, when you make shots, playing defense is easier because the other team can't get in transition. So I think here we dump the analysis back down, but it really is this key or this simple for Indiana tonight, Anthony. I think if they make shots, they win.
I mean, I think they're being sped up though. the pressure, the intensity, like
I don't know, man.
to get their stuff off.
There was some of that. I think they got real stagnant. It looked like early season Indiana, which, by the way, you know, Connecticut was one of the teams that smashed them early in the year. But like they got real stagnant. There was a lot of Kelsey Mitchell dribbling, and like Kelsey Mitchell's an awesome scorer, but she and Caitlin are just two turbo engines that keep going and going and going and going. And when they got to kind of grind through it, that is not the way they want to play. But if you make shots, you can set your defense. Your defense is better. You force them to miss shots. You get out in transition. You can't get in transition off of makes. And so, like, as stupid as the analysis is, hey, how do you win a basketball game? Make shots. Like, it unlocks every other facet of the game that they need to win and extend this thing to 3. And by the way the wacky WNBA playoffs work is if you win one of the first 2 games at home or on the road as a lower seed, you get game 3 at home in a 3-game series. And that atmosphere is going to be silly in Indiana. And they are home for a game 3 later this week.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be crazy. Crazy.
That's going to be a lot of fun. That game's 7:30 tonight on ESPN. 9:30 Lynx Mercury. Phoenix put up a bit more of a fight than was anticipated in game 1. I think that was probably their chance, though. I think this could be the last game of DT's career tonight. So salute Diana Taurasi, but we'll see if you can force a game 3. That would be great. Great to get one more DT. If they're down at double digits late, Anthony, does she get thrown out of the game on purpose?
If in DT fashion,
yeah, just get chucked out of your final game. Go out in a blaze of glory.
Nah, I think she'll have a little bit more class. I think it'll mean. I don't know. I think if she did, I would be excited.
It'd be pretty funny. It would be pretty great. All right, that's what we're watching tonight. Here's something that was said into a microphone earlier today.
Real things.
We're not going to suck this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, what do we got today, Anthony, on real things real people said into real microphones?
Okay, so we got Kevin Michael Key and Nate Burleson.
This was amazing.
Who were they with? It was something Tony.
This is on the set of CBS this morning. The reference is into the famous Key and Peele Obama sketch where Obama acts, Keegan-Michael Key as Barack Obama acts a little bit different to various folks in the room, handshake-wise, based off their pigmentation. If you know, you know. And so they're running through some of the different greetings that black folks go through. And Tony, the white co-host of CBS this morning, is learning things very quickly.
Too much elbow. But then also tell Tony, like, recognize when it's the slap and go. Like, you know, I see, like, what's up, baby? Yeah. You got to do the slap and go.
Real quick dap, walk the other way.
You can always win with that. Because black guys know, you come from business like, what's up, baby? That way you ain't got and there's the pass along, too.
A little bit more sustained contact, keep it moving.
It's all in the rhythm. And then I can tell you, I don't know if you're not allowed to do that.
Meanwhile, Gayle King is laughing her behind off in the background.
So, you know, it says everything. It says everything. I see you. Yeah, I see you.
Just a little salute. Anthony, I don't know if this is playing as well on the radio as it is.
Yeah, I think you need the visual. I think you need the visual for it.
But man, it is worth finding on your TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Do we have anything else in the folder for today?
We had the Washington Spirit.
Oh,
yeah.
So they asked their players via DM, what do you call a hair tie, like the little thing that girls use to put their ponytail holder? And British import Esme Morgan had this to say.
No, I cannot believe Tara's response. I hope you've asked her as well. I was waiting for all the hair ties, but you've got to ask Tara what she calls it. My mind is blown.
Apparently she calls it a ponytail, which is not correct. Wow. That's not correct. That's our show. See you tomorrow.